and let's say you can still only go 70, right, for third degree. So instead of having a 35-mile-an-hour leeway, you got like a 15. And then if you cross that threshold, let's say, so you exceed that, then that would go up another 30 miles an hour. So let's say from 70 to 85 would be second degree speeding, and then 85 and above would be first degree speeding in a 55-mile-an-hour zone.
Perfect. Can you amend those directly, or do we have to?
I can handle all that.
Okay. Sick. Yeah. So let's do a vote then. As presented, with the doubling of fines, the staying the course of the points on the license, and the current values as stated for the new speeding laws. Aye.
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 All right, let's go clockwise so we can
raise hand.
so we can get this shit written down.
Clock.
Aye.
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 Yep.
Aye.
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 Good job. What a good start we've got going on. Everyone's in agreement. This is good.
It's good.
That's government, baby.
As an aside, Crane, is it possible that a councilman can get MDT so we could look at the laws while up here if we're going to be discussing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's gonna take me a little bit, and I gotta get some info from you guys, so we'll do it afterwards. For now, I'll just reference stuff to you.
Yeah, I just meant for the future.
Yeah, no, I will. It's gonna take me a good hour or so to get it all set up. So
yeah, fair enough.
I'll shoot you guys requests for more information if I need it, but I gotta configure permissions because anyway, I'm not getting into it. Just I'll get it done. Yeah.
Let's get Ms. Juno.
Sorry, what was that?
Present thy legislation.
So the thing that I give me 1 second. Is there anything you specifically want to bring up? Because our stuff is the same.
I want you to bring up the one that you came up with.
The panic button?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So actually, I put this in a little document that I'm happy to share with everyone as well. Give me 1 second.
Does he have any legislations?
So I'm going to share this with everyone now.
No.
That should all be on your mobile phones.
Is that the one she gave?
So it's an emergency panic button. We've had these before. You guys know what they are. If you're unfamiliar with them, Nakota, you'd be extremely familiar. Molten, you'd be familiar also. So the panic button is basically, we'd have a panic button installed in places like City Hall. City Hall, the hospital especially. So the way that it was previously was it was installed in restaurants and nowhere else, which I thought was insane because why not restaurants and the hospital? So the question is, why can't people just 911? So yes, they obviously can, but if there is a huge threat in the within a building such as City Hall, and people don't want to agitate that threat at large, the most discreet way to alert the authorities would be a panic button, because it wouldn't be in visible sight to the public. It would have to be somewhere like under a desk. So the perfect example would be here in City Hall. It'd be under a desk, which has that glass barrier between the public and the staff, because the staff stand behind the desk. So this would then alert the authorities. And I would hope that it'd be considered a #1 priority for units to respond to. In terms of restaurants, I'm down for this to be placed in senior buns. However, my #1 priority is City Hall and the hospital, 100%.
Is there a charge that would currently cover if someone intentionally misuses the button?
So this is what Nakota and Eda and I were talking about. I'm not entirely sure if there is, but I'd like there to
No,
be.
there is not a charge for that. There was never a charge for that related to the buttons 5 years ago.
What about misuse of 911?
I believe
business license is going to
911 system. The wording sounds very similar.
That's way too light for an all hands on deck button for a city
Nobody has
hall and a
talked
hospital.
Yeah.
about those licenses.
Felony
The only
hell.
Like it's so I don't have necessarily any issue with the idea. I think it's a good idea.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure. I think we would probably need to. We could take a vote, but knowing that it would be contingent upon reaching out to city
Yeah.
infrastructure workers and
Right.
seeing the feasibility of implementation, because I know there
Mhm.
is a lot of things that are being worked on right now. So I don't want to. This
Add
would
more
be
to
one
their
that I
plate.
wouldn't
That's why I
announce
think-
publicly until we get confirmation that it's feasible.
Of course, yeah.
And also, I get the wording in there. I don't know if we could do like amendments to legislation down the line, but I think as like a soft beta test, maybe it's only in government buildings for now, and
Yeah,
then
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I
in
was
a month
thinking.
we vote on the restaurant thing. You know.
Yeah, I think especially if there is in the future when we have more food establishments, I think that's when we address it, because right now every motherfucker is at Senior Buns and every crazy person's at Senior Buns as well.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that we don't need a panic button for there to be a lot of officers there. So
True.
right now we're there all the
Yeah.
time.
What's up,
I
Michael?
just wanted to mention Kermie's here with food.
Oh.
Somebody could let him in.
I feel like the issue that like the stabbings at Senior Buns is because it's the only place. So people get
Yeah.
annoyed with each other. There's too
Yeah.
much like going on, etc. So the
Exactly.
second another place pops up, I feel like it's gonna alleviate those issues. It's not just
Exactly,
because
and
it's
that's
crazy people.
when,
like-
yeah, and that's when the panic button gets installed at the restaurants, because at that point it's like we don't have the excuse
Do we
of,
need the panic
well,
button?
people are gonna
then?
call 911 regardless, because I'm assuming that they do Nakoda when shit pops off at Senior Buns, because everyone's there.
Yeah.
I can vouch for at least how useful this would be within the hospital. I know that we have had pretty continuous issues of 911s getting missed. I'm assuming not ignored. I wouldn't want to assume that, but very often if we try to call for help, people do not show. So that'd be very useful for us.
The panic button, I'd like the panic button to, I don't know what the dispatch system is like now, but I would like the panic button to show up just like an alpha would.
If anything, it would be
Yep,
tied, I'd say, to the
so,
business.
Again, that might be something we have to talk to the Chief Justice about, because
Mhm.
as the dispatch system is in place right now, even if say I went down and I alphaed, it pops up on dispatch, but there is no, like, you remember how it used to be Juno and Malton? It is not like that anymore. There's no accompanying emergency noise along with the dispatch
31,
alert that someone has gone down.
Why don't we just vote on the idea at least for panic buttons in the government facilities, and we could worry about the kinks of implementation if and when that happens.
Why don't,
Yes,
and,
yes,
and I have a
yes, yes.
suggestion too about things like this. So when there are things that will obviously require feasibility checks, I think we should do, like Malton said, like an interest vote, just on the idea basis. And then once we get a confirmation of interest from the city council,
Yeah, we need to be
then that's sort
careful
of
not
the
to do too much shit that
impetus
needs-
for it to be brought forth and checked on the feasibility side.
Dev
Got
intervention.
it. I wasn't trying to
So,
throw
you know,
water
we'll
on it. I
deliver
was
the-
just, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it definitely, this is the kind of idea where I don't want to vote on it or announce it, because it could take months and then we're delivering something we can't, or we're promising something we can't deliver. So
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
All in favor of
Yeah, I'm good.
interest vote?
Yep, government facilities, aye.
Anyone not in favor? Let's do that. All right. The ayes
Okay.
have it.
we'll bring
Unanimous
it forward
vote.
for feasibility, and I'll get back to you guys with what I hear.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
By the
Nakota.
way, I have just put in the speeding legislation. I'm writing it now so that we can announce that after the meeting.
Oh boy,
Excellent.
that was quick.
Mr. Nakota, what
Yes. What
dost
speeds
thou
did we end
bringeth
with?
to
The ones
thine
I suggested?
council of a table?
What did he end with? 55.
All right. First thing I have on my notes. Has anyone had a run-in where their vehicle has been booted, or I found another term for this was clamped?
No.
55, 70, 90.
I have heard of it being talked about, but no,
Oh.
it hasn't.
Oh,
happened
he
to me.
ruins the pretty.
Okay, so these are
was
devices
gonna
that
be like
people are
2020.
attaching to tires,
Why is he doing this
which,
to me?
as far as I'm aware, they render the vehicle unmovable.
Okay.
But people are doing it without any legal backing or authority to use.
Pretty numbers.
As far as we have been led to believe, the only people that should be using this are on-duty tow workers. So I am proposing something along the lines of, now again, talk about it, but the wording I will probably need a little bit of help with.
I didn't know
But
they.
criminal use
didn't know
of a
they
boot
actually
or a
made
clamp.
it 55, but
This
I
would
also said it was up for
entail, it's
changing.
unlawful for you to place a boot on a vehicle, boot or clamp on a vehicle, if you are not an on-duty tow worker. I also have 2 stipulations on what vehicles can and can't be clamped, which would be it must be unoccupied and it must be illegally parked.
Sounds good to me.
Where do you
And
get
can't be
these
used
from?
on
Is it-
emergency vehicles.
Correct. Yeah. My third one is I will ask for EMS and law enforcement vehicles to be exempt. However, for the law enforcement portion of it, if someone is abusing their right to park their emergency vehicle where they want, I think that should be subject to some kind of review if people are just being morons about it, as opposed to we're responding to something in an emergency.
Well,
and
so
we
far,
just need
Michael's
to park a
first
certain way to
suggestion
get there. I think EMS
with-
should get full carte blanche.
Everyone
on it, though. I
voting
don't think
for-
you
I
should
mean,
be
yeah,
clamping an
that-
ambulance ever.
and it's going to be set
True.
into.
I mean, I think if the police are abusing it,
effect
that sounds like an
right
internal
away.
issue. Or in an extreme case, if it's rampant, maybe the civilian oversight board.
My job here
I
is
have no
where do
problem with
you
that.
where do you get these things? Is it from like tow services?
Correct.
Yes.
So would it be too broad to have it be named misuse of tow services or something like that? So therefore, like for example, as well, you could add in emergency vehicles being towed without reason, or is that too broad?
Might be too broad. There could be other reasons why other
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
would be able to do this, or any sort of like, on private property, somebody else would be able to do it that isn't a tow worker. Like there is.
So I've had this brought to me just several times actually now as like a legal question. What the answer I've given, and this isn't binding, I'm just telling you this is what I've told people who have come to me and said, either one, I worked in towing and I have the ability to buy these boots, can I use them? Or 2, someone boots my car, can they do that? The answer I've given is that the only time I can see it being legally viable to boot a car would be either 1, if it's parked on private property. So say I own like, Grove Street 10 and somebody parks their car on my
trapping
lawn.
ones.
I see no reason why you can't boot that car because it's abandoned property left on your property.
Mhm.
That being said, the only other time I could really foresee it being legal is if you are a tow worker and you are called to do a tow in a high traffic, high volatility area, let's say in front of Senor Buns.
How does it work in real life?
And
Isn't
you're
booting only
worried
when-
about by the time you park the car and get out, someone's going to try to get in the car and drive it away. In that case, I could understand the justification of temporarily booting the car while you put the truck in position, get it loaded and all that kind of shit. But I don't know. I think there's a whole legal fucking wormhole of allowing people to use these boots because, well, shit. In most places, to operate a tow truck, you need like licensing and insurance and all that kind of shit. Here, we're an emerging economy, right? So we're just letting anybody drive a tow truck as long as they sign in with the right guy.
Right.
So I'm kind of wary of giving any random Joe just the ability to go around booting cars. I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like there should be like some kind of documentation before they use these things, like photographs.
I was
of,
actually going to suggest that. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, they're
Yeah,
supposed to do that anyway, right? Like that's
they're supposed
Correct.
to, but they
Yeah.
don't.
They
so
don't.
legally the tow process, and I'm working on this as well, but legally the tow process is supposed to be that someone not involved in the tow truck who ends up taking the call marks a car, and then another person gets the call in the tow truck and then tows the car. So when they return it to the lot logs the state IDs of the person who marked the car and the person who towed the car. They're supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to be the same person. That would be fraud, basically.
Right.
And then on top of that, the person who marks the car and the person who tows the car are supposed to take pictures so that they can prove, if they're later sued in court by the owner, that the car was indeed parked illegally. So again, I don't really know what
The use of
I don't know how to implement the boot in a
boot.
way that isn't already there, but that doesn't cause a bunch of headaches.
I see what
I'm
you're
open to
saying.
ideas. It's something I've struggled with.
I mean, you could carte blanche say, instead of like saying boot is legal except for, you could say the boot is illegal to use and it's only legal in these narrow circumstances, such as on your own property, you know, a towing company may have a contract with the business, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most prudent way to go about it, but I'll leave it to you guys on the language because, like I said, I've been up, down, left, and right on this thing, and I ain't come to a good solution yet.
Yeah, that's really difficult. That's what I generally mark cars for tow when they've like on sidewalks as I'm walking to work. So
Yeah. Does someone parking on your front lawn qualify as illegal parking then? I feel like it would.
Yeah.
Property.
Yeah, that
yeah,
should.
parking
Private property,
violation.
yeah.
I feel
No,
like
I mean,
most
not
of
even
these
that.
boots
It's
are used
just
in bad
it's
faith.
abandoned property on your private property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any property that's left on your property is classified as abandoned or trespassing at the very least. So you control what's on your yard.
Would it be benefit? Sorry, go ahead, Malton.
No, I was gonna say if I'm just spitballing here, and maybe only those in the judiciary or former cops may know about it, where it could be something styled in the form of the old Ravens regulations, like the burglary law, where if you put a boot on it, it's on you to prove that the boot was legally able to be put on, instead of the onus being on someone to prove that it was illegal.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Would we attach prongs to the law where it's like
Yeah,
these
so
things
it'd be
need to be
like-
satisfied in order
Yeah,
for it
it'd
to
be like
qualify?
in order to legally make use of a restrictive boot on a vehicle, you must be one operating a contracted, tow truck or operating on your own private property. Two, you must be securing the vehicle for tow within a reasonable amount of time, which allows, again, people to argue what a reasonable amount of time is, so it's good for court. And then finally, you must argue the circumstances or exigency that require the use of the boot, aka why couldn't you just tow the car?
Yeah, I think that's a good baseline, and we could always adjust it as needed.
Mm-hmm. Then stipulating for EMS and law enforcement, they're waived from having their vehicles booted.
So that's an interesting one. You guys are exempt from all parking regulations as long as you have your lights on.
That is true.
So why wouldn't we
Um,
just stick with that? Isn't that just easier?
Yeah. Like I said, any misuse
I
of
hate
that
to
is an
be,
internal PD thing. So
I hate to be harsh, Nakota, but
You're not being harsh. I don't think
if you
so.
can't remember to turn your fucking lights on, then maybe you should get your car towed.
I do not
Fair.
disagree with you. I don't disagree with that.
The only problem I have, and I hate to use this kind of an argument, but if a cop car goes into an impound, is it still a real like piece of crap to like try to get that thing out because it's not tied to an owner? That's
Ooh.
Is that a concern right now? I don't know.
I'm asking Dakota. Like, are these still tied to like a state ID 0? And
yeah, they're state account owned, I believe.
Yeah.
So then we probably
Okay,
exempt
yeah.
for the time being because that's beyond
Yeah.
their control.
Yes.
And
I
I just
mean,
want to I just want to clarify, if people are going to be morons, I agree. Like if your excuse for a PD member is I was going to an emergency call, your lights and sirens should be on anyway. So when you pull up to the scene, it should not matter if you run out of your vehicle straight away. I'm just trying to give people the benefit of the doubt to begin with. But if people are going to be morons, then I have no sympathy for them.
Are police getting their own cars anytime soon? I'm just trying to think for in the future. Maybe we could make it more restrictive towards. But
that's a good time for me to make a small announcement. So
okay.
I've clarified this with the treasurer and the mayor already. Make sure. I mean, this is a good time as any to get y'all filled in. So, up until the last 2 or 3 days, all government salaries, including PD, EMS, anybody you can think of that requires authorization to sign into their job, all of those salaries are being subsidized by the federal government.
Oh.
As of 2 or 3 days ago, the federal government found it fit that we have succeeded well enough with Mrs. Wright's help in sort of getting ourselves solvent with the state account, such that we are now going to pay our own way. So all government salaries, including welfare checks, DOC, PD, anything you can think of that has a government paycheck, now comes
Is
directly out of
from
the state account.
Mm-hmm.
So
Holy
as a result of that,
Yeah.
we are now going to enter, after discussion with the mayor and the treasurer, into a feeling out period over the next couple weeks where we're going to track the trend of the state account. And as we hire more people and as we spend money, we see if we're actually in the positive or not. If we start trending down, then we'll need to, figure out money making incentives, things like that. So that being said, and the reason I bring this up now is that large scale purchases like the EMS helicopter, the PD vehicles, and all that are a no-go for now until we figure out how the state account is trending. Because if we make a very large investment right now into something like a $8-10 million helicopter or
I think he's asking
a
if they
fleet
can
of
buy
PD cars,
private.
and then it turns out we're trending negative in a large way, we could be screwed. So
Understood.
that's the sort of grim news for today.
Follow up. So no one owns the cop cars, right?
No, the
Currently,
They're all
state does.
state owned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys been modifying your cars at all? Can you?
That is a command issue, but we have been getting them repaired, and we have recently started replacing the engines, which were the only component of the vehicle that were not able to be repaired
Yeah, you're
back to
welcome,
like
Mayor.
showroom
From my
status.
conversations with Slacks Mayor, I don't think they're in a position yet to be upgrading the cars.
Right.
Why not?
I was informed that they were possibly adding turbos to the cars. I
They're,
don't know what that
they're
does,
testing
but-
them, and those are
Oh,
being
okay.
Testing
tested
to see if it-
independently.
There's some issues with how they're owned, with whether or not those upgrades would
Oh,
stick.
okay.
Yeah.
Is the best way I can put it. So we can discuss that offline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Soon to end.
That's what you guys are gonna have to do though for now. I would highly recommend looking into fleshing that out, especially if you're having trouble catching people on the street right now.
Yeah,
Well,
it's almost impossible for them to keep up with some of the cars out there.
Yeah.
They're recording cars going 170, 180, and it's just
What?
impossible
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
CVPIs to keep up. Yeah, that's
Huh.
sorry, Dakota. This is just from Sean telling me, but
No,
yeah,
I mean, you're
it's-
not saying anything that I haven't experienced, so you're
yeah.
170. Yeah.
preaching to the choir.
For the record, I
Barry-
think that it's very likely that PD upgrades could be within the budget, even with the trending situation. From talking to Miss Treasure over there, but again,
Yeah.
we need to get with Slacks and figure out the feasibility of how that's even going to happen.
Yep.
Right.
I am not for the police department receiving any state funds for the purpose of car modifications, because you guys make a lot of fucking money and you can pay for that shit yourself, dog. I'm gonna be real.
I don't disagree with him. I heard Cornwood bragging about having like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
Yeah.
How the hell
I
does
ta- I
he
talked
have
to- I
hundreds
talked-
of
How much
thousands?
is that?
I talked to
They
Kid
earn
Archer the
Jesus.
other day. She said she had $80,000 in her bank account, dog.
God,
Like, come on.
fucking wish
Like,
I
come
had
on,
that.
dog.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Dakota, how much money you got?
Well, with all due respect, I currently have $90,000 in my personal
Oh,
bank
yeah,
account.
I don't have
but
that
that's
much.
because
Right.
I've worked 15 to 17-hour shifts since day one.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
word.
yeah,
Damn.
I don't
accepting
own a
donations.
car. I
Same.
yeah, like
Am I the-
it's
am I
because
the
I have literally
brokest-
worked my fucking ass off.
Well, it's
Am
not
I the
even that
brokest one here?
crazy.
Yeah, I have just
At this
under
point, we're
like
so far in, like,
60
$3,000
grand, but I
Michael has
work 8
put-
hours, 6 days a week.
70,000 into the
Yeah.
house in
I
the
don't think
span
we
of
should
what?
spend state money on that for now.
2 weeks now.
I would be
Okay.
interested in spending
Plus we
state money
have-
on in the future, like Crane said,
12 right now.
purchasing new vehicles, right?
Mhm.
But like in terms of like upgrading and shit, no, I don't think so.
What about them buying their own vehicles, like they used?
Yeah,
to?
can they do that?
That's what I was asking for the towing
that's
regulations.
part of the conversations I'm having with Slacks.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Because if I'm can put my 2 cents out, if I'm buying my own vehicle, I have absolutely no issue modifying it with my own money because at that point it's my own
Right,
property,
and
as long as it's within legal limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
surely cops wouldn't steal from each other, right? Right?
Surely not.
I don't think so.
Surely.
I mean,
So
I
for-
wouldn't.
Oh, you mean like the vehicles? Okay.
Well, every car in that motor pool should have some turbo then.
All
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
But I think we need some paint too to put our call signs on the top because that's still an issue.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
sort
a whole lot being worked on.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys will get a mechanic internally, and then it'll all be sorted.
All right.
So,
Uh,
as far as the towing stuff, I mean, do we want to just vote on
Yeah, the
like
boots.
the boot stuff that we just talked about, and the judiciary can like work on the wording of it?
any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Good work.
All right, I'll draft something and I'll circulate it to you guys for feedback.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to propose? Because I've got a lot of shit that I need to propose, and I just want to get everything else out of the way.
I have more.
I have one.
You have more?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. Oh. I would like to make an amendment to the brandishing of a non-firearm charge.
Oh, that.
As it stands, the wording, let me get it for you.
Unlawful for you to draw or exhibit a deadly weapon in a rude, angry, or threatening way in the presence of another person
Yeah,
and not in defense
conversation
of
with
self
him.
or others.
Correct. So very often we will show up on a scene somewhere and someone will be running around with a knife in hand.
It's
and they'll
Reed
be-
said.
He's not the only one, but yes,
Yeah.
that's one person I'm thinking
Lots
of.
of people do.
The
Yeah.
recharge.
And they run around the whole time and they say, I'm not threatening anyone. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm not threatening anyone.
Mhm.
Reed is about to
Yeah.
have a fucking
Which-
legislation about him.
I think I made the argument to somebody that if you replace the knife with a gun, people would probably feel a lot more strongly about it. However, I do want to just add one line, something along the lines of displaying a non-firearm deadly weapon in a public place without legal reason. And then it is unlawful for you to draw or exhibit the deadly weapon in a rude, angry, or threatening way in the presence of another person and not in self-defense of others. I don't know how
Can I-
anyone feels about that.
I just want to play like penetration tester here for a second.
Yep.
What if I'm smart aleck criminal number 437 and I see this legislation change and I just decide that instead of carrying a knife, I'm just going to carry a pipe wrench because you can't claim that it's a deadly weapon all the time?
We talked about this.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the whole law?
We talked
is
about it
something.
as well. Like, it's obviously not. It's a work weapon. I mean, it's a weapon you use at work, right?
Yeah, why the fuck
but-
would someone be carrying a pipe wrench around like Senor Buns?
Mhm.
They shouldn't. That's the thing. Like, they shouldn't.
Yeah, but
you
how do we
shouldn't-
regulate that under calling it a weapon? You can't unanimously guarantee or declare every tool to be a weapon. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, that's the issue. Yeah.
If someone's walking around with like a non-firearm out, can't you just hit them with like disturbing the peace or something, or is that too strict a definition?
No, it doesn't
No.
qualify. It's too strict.
Mhm.
I mean, isn't it circumstantial? Like, it's all entirely circumstantial. If someone's walking
is that?
around with a pipe wrench down the road with no other tools on their
Well, that's
person,
that's
or
why the
even-
rude, angry, or threatening is in there. Is because
Oh,
you're trying
right.
to quantify or
Mask mandate.
qualify an action that by itself is innocuous.
My
Mhm.
stance is I like the definition being that way because it makes for interesting court arguments.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because
What,
trust me, I've heard this. I've had people come to me and say, you know, why isn't this work? And I can
What-
see arguments for it both ways.
What do you guys think about it is unlawful for you to draw or exhibit a potentially deadly weapon?
Oh, good lord.
That could be
That could be a,
anything.
shoe- that could be a
Leaves things
shoe,
too
you know,
open.
like
Yeah,
It could be my
I mean,
MCT right
let's,
here.
let's just
too,
hold on
right?
a second. I will cite to one Delver Lee, who
Mhm.
entered the city hall some 6 years ago when he first moved here, and requested to me no less than 30 times in the span of 1 hour that I write on his profile that his hands are declared as a deadly weapon because he is trained in several forms of martial arts.
Have I had
So,
food? Yeah.
in terms of that language, sir, that's gonna be a no.
He's rated. He's a
I-
rated E for everybody.
I think as it stands now, if someone's like, "I'm not threatening people," I think it's part of this law already kind of like covers that, and that's the
Why is my camera
it-
so
it is-
fucked?
pretty unanimously rude to hold a knife or a pipe wrench in a public place.
Yeah, I think
there's a
cops
part
could
at the end
articulate.
there.
I think
Yeah.
cops could articulate. I agree with Malton. I think it allows
Mhm.
for interesting arguments, and also, let's be honest, right? It's 5 months, $190.
Mhm.
That's less than a third-degree speeding ticket at this point in terms of the fine.
Yeah.
True.
So I feel like if the person's actually doing something wrong and they're being a ne'er-do-well, you could probably get them on something else that's more impactful. And if they're not, you know, then maybe
your beat.
just let shitheads be shitheads.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
The
like
thing
read
I
to
will
read.
say against the speed. Well, it's not just read. The thing I will say about the brandishing is I get way more people trying to be forehead, 900 IQ with the brandishing charge than I ever have a speeding charge.
Really?
Then
Yeah.
stack the shit out of them on other charges and show them you're
Yeah.
cleverer than they are.
Yeah, fuck
Tell
them
them to
up.
put it away, then
I'm
they're
not much of a
disobeying if
stacker.
they don't, and then you.
Well, maybe you
go
should
from
learn to
there.
fight fire with fire, Dakota.
It's time to embrace the petty Nicole.
Can I ask one question then, Chief
Can
Justice?
I refer you, Dakota, to improper lane change, failure to use a turn signal?
Yes.
We call that the Matt Rhodes doctrine.
Yep. And I'm gonna tell you
Yes.
the one that I observed.
Not the fucking
The true Matt Rhodes effect is you pull someone over for failure to use a turn signal,
Mhm.
you issue them the ticket, and then when you tell them they're free to go and they merge back onto the road, you hit them again if they don't use the turn signal to merge back into the road, leaving the ticket.
Mhm. Yep.
That's called a twofer right there.
Okay. But my question about the brandishing a non-firearm is there any subjectivity in rude, angry, or threatening if you're the person viewing the individual with the weapon out and you feel threatened by it?
No, so courts use what's called a reasonable person test when developing things that are quote unquote subjective. So it doesn't go to the individual because, for example, some people are scared of clowns, some people are scared of men with face tattoos with receding hairlines, some people are scared of really anyone. So you can't necessarily do it off that. It has to be the generalized reasonable person.
Most people scared to read. Yeah.
All right, noted.
I am one with the desk.
Oh my God,
I am
me
the desk
too.
man.
This is terrible.
You're all right. Just stop what you're doing. You'll be fine.
Oh yes.
I think you should commit to it. It's your life now.
Gonna bring up the mask mandate. I'm gonna get a lot of hate.
Okay. Are we? So what's the haps on this one?
I'm gonna be a no on changing that one. I think
Yeah,
it's
no,
good
keep
as
the
is.
definition the same.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Make them pay in other ways.
Who are we at? You got more, Dakota?
I got one.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh well, we had to talk about this as well. This is gonna be
go ahead.
this is gonna be one that is kind of interesting. The mask mandate 2.0.
Mm.
Wow.
Huh.
What do you think?
Okay.
It's
What
the
the
same
fuck? What the
thing, or
fuck's
is
the
it-
mask mandate?
The
yo?
mask mandate.
Well, let
if
us tell you a story.
Yeah. If
Please.
basically, go on, Dakota. You could probably explain this better than me.
So from my perspective, many years ago, there used to be a mandate in effect that stated that if you wore a mask if you wore a mask in a public place,
Not for
You-
health purposes, right?
No, it didn't matter.
yeah, it didn't.
Yep.
What?
It
Yeah,
did
we
not
didn't
matter.
have, like,
Everyone would
cop
claim it
notes
was
or
for health
anything, it didn't
purposes.
matter.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
be
yeah.
I
honest.
see,
It has to be
okay.
everybody.
So if you were wearing a mask in a public place, you were subject, and not in your own vehicle, you were subject to
Frisk.
stop, be identified, remove the mask, and frisk by any PD member anytime.
Hmm.
And
Basically, gang members wore their shit everywhere, and we had to set a policy to stop them from acting like assholes in public.
Is that a problem right now, Dakota?
I am seeing more and more people wearing masks every day.
Mhm.
However, like Michael brought it up, I would like to see it re-implemented, but to a different degree that doesn't involve police officers being stabbed, shot, or run over with a vehicle every time they try to institute it.
What's the suggestion then?
Michael, would you like to?
Well, removing the frisk part, it's not unreasonable to ask somebody to stop and then remove their mask so you can identify them. I would say.
So basically, they could still be stopped. They could still be identified. They have to provide that ID, and if they don't, that's when it opens them up to disobeying a peace officer.
Yes.
Correct.
Is there a charge for failure to identify?
It would be disobeying if they
So
don't.
Yeah,
disobeying?
we are
'Cause
not a
Okay.
stop and ID state as of yet.
Okay.
So I think that was the issue previously, was that even if the person stopped, identified themselves, and removed the mask, then the officers would still push for a
Yes.
frisk. And
Yeah.
that's where the issue, like,
Mhm.
that's when the
Yeah.
violence would happen.
Correct.
Because there
Yeah.
would be those officers that would love to push the line.
Yeah, they
so.
would just constantly push. With me,
Mhm.
the thing that I did was literally, hey, like remove your mask, or I'm gonna have to frisk you and remove that mask. They'd usually just remove the mask, I'd ID them, and they'd be on their way.
Yeah. And that's how it was intended to go. But,
I'm
Classic
fine
people
with-
taking advantage.
Yeah, I'm fine with the concept if we remove the frisk. The question I would have, and this is be a police procedural standpoint, is what happens when a smart criminal, 24 or whatever, says I don't have an ID, or you can't reasonably ID him. Does that open him up to be taken down to MRPD for fingerprinting?
I would vote no.
no.
So then what happens if they say they don't have an
Seems
ID on
overkill.
them?
I believe we all
So-
have digital ID, don't we, on our phone?
No.
I
That's
don't
not
think, I don't
forged?
think a digital ID is. I don't think a digital ID should be.
I'm not grumbling because I'd the idea of pulling your phone out. I just think it's a slippery slope. If I haven't done anything wrong and there's not a public safety justification to wearing a
Think it's
mask
also
being
undercut.
linked to violence, then I'm hard pressed to understand why the police powers come into effect, right? So one of the key principles of a free society is that you should be able to travel freely without, interference from law enforcement, unless you are, breaking a law, right? So using the public roadways and getting pulled over for a ticket, failing to signal, jaywalking, right?
No, the purpose
But
of
if
this
I'm
is for
completely
people that are
legally
lazy.
walking down the road and I happen to be wearing, a face covering, and there's no public interest about violence being associated with face coverings or gangs or whatever, right? Then I'm hard pressed to understand why I should grant the police the ability to identify somebody.
Okay. I can see that,
Yeah,
honestly.
that's a fair point.
But I mean, like, yeah. So, like, walking into a bank with a mask on.
Yeah, and I mean, look,
Because
that's where it
those-
started. That's where
yeah,
it started.
That's going to be
literally
the
where it
example.
started.
Yeah. People
Was it
walking into
started
banks with
because
masks.
people went into banks wearing masks, and there was a time where they were fiddling with the security systems, and they wanted to be able to run away unidentified if police showed up. But I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? Like, I don't think there's been anything that's occurred that would justify this action. If anything, I think we'd just be alienating the public and kind of,
Just
burning
bring it
some
up down the
political
line.
capital that I think we really need right now.
I kind of agree. The only time this will really become useful is if you're trying to identify someone you believe has a warrant or something. And then in
Yes.
that case, they're probably still just going to try to kill you. So it brings us back to what you're trying to avoid, which is cops getting run over, shot, whatever the hell.
I don't know.
In
I
most
think
cases, yeah,
I
overkill.
think it could be a viable thing, but I wouldn't be comfortable putting my name on a vote until we had something to say to the public. Here's why I voted for it, because of this extreme public crisis, right? Because then, like, back in the day when the mask mandate got put in,
fine with putting
it was
on the
very
back
easy
burner.
for me to say to civilians, look, we put it in because, hell, this will stop you from getting, kidnapped just for walking on the street by a gang full of people wearing bandanas in a car or whatever.
I guess my question to Dakota is, you said you're seeing a lot of people. Is that causing problems for you all in the police, or is it just
I mean,
not
not
liking it?
I guess not being able to identify people in the commission of a crime because they have a mask on would be
But if
the
they're
issue.
committing a crime, are they then just going to show you their ID? Like, I think at that point, you know, they're already committed to the crime.
It's an iffy thing though, because if people wearing a mask and just walking around using that mask as their cover, if they have a hunch, if the cops have a hunch that somebody committed a crime, asking them for their ID and to take off the mask is going to force them into either a fight or flight mode. They will run off and try to hide, or they will do what they're always going to do and pull a knife or a gun. I'm fine with putting this on the back burner. It was just something we thought about.
No, I think it's a good suggestion once we get a justification. Is my concern.
Yeah,
let's review this in the last couple of weeks in our tenure.
Okay, that works.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So no need to vote on that. There is something I wanted to talk about in the realm of voting. What do you guys think about making our voting records public?
Oh, I already said they were going to be, by the way.
Excellent.
I
love that.
I said that I was going to invite Ursula to the meetings to record and/or take notes.
Well,
Is she awake?
I don't know. I never got around to it because I got busy with some other shit.
How do you guys feel about press conferences?
I don't like the idea of meetings being recorded, but the results I think is fair.
Yeah, I think a press conference after the fact would be great, just because
Yeah.
sometimes we may have to discuss
Just another opportunity,
certain,
guess, as Max.
to be that person.
Yeah,
weird.
intangibles. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
That's
weird
fair, yeah.
conversations. So
My idea with like press conferences, like the whole, I've always found them quite appealing, and it's always been something that I think when I was in the PD, it lacked a lot of was that communication with the public, and
Right.
state announcements and stuff are great, but I think a press conference would be really cool to really like actually show that communication being physical, like face to face. But that might just be a me thing rather than like an overall thing.
I don't mind either way. I'm fine with feeding Ursula the TLDR after the meeting of the outcomes so she can publish them and make people aware. I'm also fine with the press conference. I mean, I won't participate because I don't really like, the fucking cameras and shit, but I'm happy either way.
Yeah, I mean, if we're like taking a vote or discussing, I don't. There shouldn't be any cameras or anyone, let's say, unaffiliated, like in this room here. But like the results of it and our votes, I think should be public information.
So is this officially written down somewhere? That the voting record of the Council of 8 will be publicly available and published?
No, it was just something that when I was formulating with the federal government, I made clear that it was meant to be public. It was meant to be, the action should not be, hidden and secret.
Okay, so let's all vote on this then so that we can get it in and written down somewhere for people to see. Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Excellent.
Actually, I have an idea for something that's almost like two birds, one stone. I think obviously this stuff should be accessible in the MTT here at City Hall. But I think another option would be with the DOJ app. There could be a tab, so obviously you could see in the DOJ app which judges and whatnot.
What DOJ app?
Well, in the future, a DOJ app.
Sorry.
I mean, we need a DOJ app.
let's get one first, and then we can talk about
first.
editing.
Yeah, no, I
That's
was
a good
just gonna
idea.
suggest that it'd be cool if we could have like legislation changes in that tab of that app, but also it could state like what things have been voted on as well. Obviously that's for the future, but it's just an idea to toss in there.
No more dev stuff.
Excellent
that
idea.
could also be the thing like yesterday, Max, where we record state announcements.
Moon, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna tack onto that because I think Crane's the first person who mentioned a DOJ app to me. Right? Was it you?
Yeah.
Okay, so we Etta, me, and everyone else realized that having a section of that app to essentially record state announcements for people who were not around to hear or see
That's
them
a good thing. Yes.
would be a good idea, and also a new legislation tab.
Yeah,
in
so
there.
I'm on my phone here talking to the technician, and it seems like the plan is to add a report category in the MDT, one for state announcements and one for city council documents. So I would give you guys access to the city council documents, which means prior to coming to the meetings and throughout the week, whenever you get proposals finished, you could throw a draft proposal in there so we could review before we get here, so the meetings could be shorter because
That's
we'll
hot.
all have reviewed the material a little better. And second, we have a record of our decisions as well as the outcomes, which can then be published.
Okay, and then people
In
can
terms of
just
the
look it
app,
up on the
I'm just
public
gonna-
one.
I'm just going to tell you right now, it's hard enough to get the app actually done. I don't think we're going to get the functionality you're talking about.
Well,
Okay.
if they can at least
Okay.
look it up at the front desk, you know.
Yeah, oh
like,
yeah, it'll be
then,
public
yeah,
MDT.
It'll still be something that they can
Alright.
access.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, I
Perfect.
will work with the technician on that stuff.
bless them.
And
Thank
NASA
you.
sincere.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else that they would like to propose currently?
I got to bring up one thing. I'm not proposing it necessarily. It's something that, and I've talked to Max about this a little bit. There are going to be some things from time to time that were intended to be codified in law, but just haven't had the chance to become yet. One of those things is weight systems for the trucking industry.
Mm.
So one of the
Yes.
things regulations wise that is going to be emerging is there will be a commercial driver's license that the clerks will issue. This will allow people to
Oh,
legally
nice.
drive 18 wheelers, things like that. So the Grime
Ooh.
Pounder, the Packer, the larger Group 6 vehicles. And part of that is there will be tickets going in for being overweight. Right now, there is no regulatory system for the trucking system. So
Mhm.
essentially, they can just load up with, to the brim with boxes, be completely unsafe, and there's no punishment outside the normal speeding regulation.
Interesting.
So
Actually,
I
we
don't
have
know.
this
I
down.
don't know when that's actually going to be implemented, but I'm working on it now with PD and with the folks that handle the truck
Interesting.
regulations.
Is that so? Would that also classify the giant armored Group 6 trucks? Because I was almost
Yes.
murdered
Yes,
crossing
the
a
group
crosswalk yesterday by one of
anything that
those.
is going to
running
be
a red
classed as a
light.
commercial vehicle. So,
Okay.
Box trucks with multiple suspensions, etc. I don't know vehicle terms. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
So
Yeah, we get
you Craig, you're suggesting that we you're essentially going to be adding a new charge for this?
So, yeah, it was always intended to be the case, but we're still working on some of the MDT functionality to getting the license established.
Okay.
So and I'm also trying to work with PD to make sure that they are properly trained on how to estimate the weight of the truck by
Yeah.
looking at the suspension, how low it's riding, things like that. So once those things are figured out, then several charges
A
will be implemented, which will
CDO.
be traffic citations essentially. So PD will have the authority to, much like a weigh station, right? They can stop a commercial truck and just say, "Hey, I'm just going to check your load. Looks like you're riding a little low," that kind of thing. And then they'll be able to do a spot check on the vehicle.
Yeah.
If it is overweight, the person will get an infraction, points, and there will be some kind of strike system against the commercial license.
Who's punching
So
out
if
of
someone
it?
is abusing the weight regulations and skirting them,
I'm fine
and they
with
do
that.
so in a
I'm fine with
prolific manner,
cracking
then their
down on all
commercial
the
license can
fucking
be revoked, and they will be
cocksuckers
suspended from driving the larger vehicles for a short period of time.
driving like
Good.
assholes.
I like that.
But again, this is all like, I got a bunch of coordination to do with a bunch of folks, and it's not
Right.
going to go in tomorrow. This is maybe a couple weeks out.
Is this like a huge problem? Is like a safety issue? Like where's this coming from?
Safety issue, I'd say.
Yeah, safety issue, and also the intent. The contracts that the government has with these state-sponsored companies in the rebuilding phase. We're allowing companies like Grime to operate in the state and to employ people, and there needs to be some kind of oversight and regulation of their activities. Right now, it's kind of the Wild West. You get a semi truck from your
flying
boss down
around
at the
everywhere.
docks, and then drive up to Sandy and load it up till there's packages falling out the back, and no one has any say about it.
And flying down the road at ridiculously high speeds, carrying that
Yeah.
much weight, they're literally just going to murder people.
Yeah, I see people.
So,
drifting
I
in
messaged
combination.
Sincere.
Yeah,
You-
it's absolutely ridiculous.
You've seen how
Yeah.
the trucks lower the more
I just
shit
have
you
one
put in
question.
them.
If they're going to be specialty
affect the brakes,
licenses,
too.
does that mean if they get pulled over while they're on duty, they'll be getting points on
The more shit
the,
you'd
the
have,
specialty
the
license?
lower
as
There
the
will be
opposed to
some
their...
worse the
kind
brakes are gonna
of
be.
strike system for
Mhm,
that
yes.
license.
Okay, and if they...
So instead of like, so for example, hypothetically, what's been discussed so far with the people who run Grime would be if the person with a commercial license is caught overweight, a strike would go on their MDT profile, and if they received X number of strikes, their commercial license would be suspended for a Y period of time.
Understood. Okay.
That
That's all
would
I
be
was wondering.
fucking
And that would be in
funny, though.
cooperation with Grime. So if the person goes down there and tries to start up a contract to go take a 18-wheeler up to Polito, they would not be allowed to. They would have to literally go to drive the little speedster vans around.
Mhm.
How do you determine the weight? The weight.
So
limit?
that's what I'm working on with PD. Grime has internal regulations, so there's a certain amount of weight that is like the maximum the truck can handle before it basically, the axle snaps.
Yeah, I've done Grime.
Right. So there will be training for PD so that they can approach the vehicle from the side, inspect the suspension, and they'll be able to estimate the weight. And if there's, let's say, reasonable suspicion that the truck's overweight based on how low it's riding, then they would have the legal authority to open up the back and inspect, the amount back there.
Yeah, Mayor, I can tell you that I was at the old City Vault the other day as one of those giant Group 6 vans was being unloaded.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they take a pallet out, you can physically see the truck
suspension
coming
lift.
up. Yeah, in real
Oh.
time.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Sorry, I wasn't sure you guys are aware of that or not. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
visibly
No.
identify
Mhm.
how low something is riding.
So if it's dragging on the
Wow.
ground, it's probably got a lot of stuff in it.
So these trucks are
Okay.
like actually scraping when they go over speed
Correct.
bumps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's crazy. Okay.
All right.
I just know you made a hell of a lot for me.
Let's take a 5-minute break before we get into the 10 things that I need to talk to you guys about.
Ooh.
All right.
I gotta use the bathroom, so
Smoke them if you got them.
Do you
Yep.
think?
I too have more stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up some things. Nothing's concrete though.
Oh,
just
good.
Discussion
Uh,
stuff.
I'll go last.
Okay.
Because my shit's kind of dense.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Don't use my office, Max.
Yeah, maybe.
Max,
Oh,
no.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
You got him house trained.
Yesterday, I caught him pissing in my fucking office.
Oh. Well.
All right.
Oh,
Glad
that's a
I-
you problem.
Crane, I got a
That does sound like a you problem.
Do we have
Yeah.
a
We hit him with
janitor?
public
Look,
indecency.
if you're coming up with these toys, instead of regulations, can we call them like Willie's something? I gotta build some goodwill with this man back up again.
What?
Know
Willie
anything about
Glory
it?
is like one of the best tow people in this city, and he's actually been trying to pioneer a lot of this boot stuff.
Oh, all right. I actually I had him tow a vehicle from PD the other day, and still working on the tow system. Apparently, there's some kinks they're working out.
He's my go-to for towing
Yeah.
issues right now.
Okay. Chief Justice, I have a question specifically about some charges in
What's
the
up?
MDT.
Hi.
That's what at this
Mostly
moment in
about
time, pretty
contraband
much it's
and a
hey,
few other,
people
PD
need
I like
to
the
be
fact that
more
you're up this
careful.
late.
what qualifies as
I don't
PD
like
in
that.
the MDT?
I'm not
Is
too
it
bad.
They
better
time
for
around.
me
they
to
shouldn't
request those
want
be
to
removed,
go up
some of those
to the
individually,
top of a mountain
some of the
and
items in there,
launch
because
themselves
How
from the
damaged is
top
your hair
don't
from
exist
bleaching it?
for
Mhm.
fun.
aware.
How damaged is your
Uh,
hair
but
from
some of
bleaching
them-
it?
Oh, it's
People are
bad.
getting better about not injuring themselves because
It's like
I like-
bad.
Yeah.
gotten older, they're
Does it like
getting
snap
more
off if I like
fragile and everything.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. I,
Just email me a
Improving it. They
But it's
gotta
not-
learn
it's not
that
great.
if they
What you
need
have in
help,
your
they can't get themselves into
capacity
places
to,
where they
You like how you
Okay.
cut the
exactly.
tips of
Yeah,
your
that's
hair
and
because it
we
gets-
do
it's
still
all
have
what they have
local
at the
EMS, which is
hospital.
federally funded,
broken
so
or
they
whatever,
have
like-
the
And then for the
ability to go
contract,
and help people.
like how
that
you cut the
we
tip of
couldn't.
your
So-
hair because it's like all
and that's just
fussy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I
Split
got the
ends,
quote
yeah.
for the helicopter,
should probably
there's
just
no
cut it
way
off.
in hell that we could
no,
buy
I
it.
think it's totally fine. Yeah, I completely understand that.
Do you want me to braid your hair?
Braid it?
people
Okay,
did,
I just
but
wanted to make sure
yeah.
I wasn't
You
overstepping
can add
any
extensions
processes
to your hair and
here
braid
by
it.
setting
No, I
to
think I'm
a
alright.
You sure?
Yeah, Happy did just
Yeah.
provide me with
Perfect, appreciate
the
it.
the budget for the ambulance repairs as well as the engine replacements. Since it was 5,
So
you
he
know,
has 10 fucking
ambulances, they
things.
went ahead and paid for it out of
Oh, good
pocket.
things.
So I told
Right.
Yeah,
him
all
that
good,
we
huh,
could go ahead
Juno?
and get that replaced.
Yes.
So
Yes, Crane. All
yeah,
good.
which
You
All
know, old
good.
Yeller me.
that all totaled.
What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
I already know.
It was close to what
Okay,
PD had
so you
spent
don't
as
like
well.
some of
So
them, huh?
You want to push me off a mountain?
Wait, what? What do you mean a man?
I know all about your law.
Oh, I have
All
nothing to
good,
do with
huh?
that.
All good, huh?
I have nothing to do with that.
You hear about this one,
alright?
Michael?
I have no idea about
do
that
tell.
one, okay? I have
Spoiler
no-
alert, they want to classify everyone of a certain age into a labeled group with a proper noun, and then evict them from society forcefully, aka Midsommar.
Look, I do not agree with that one, okay? I don't know where the fuck that one
Huh.
came from, and I feel like it came from James Randall.
Yeah, that's something.
Okay, besides that, everything else is good, okay?
You know, you ain't going far enough. We should make them all wear armbands so we know which ones are which.
Oh my god, Crane!
Yeah.
Like I that is I just want to make it known that is a Max thing, not a me thing.
All
I
right.
didn't even discuss that at all.
You're gonna have me to give up all my children. I don't know how to feel about that.
Oh my god, Michael! I swear. The fact that you care though, it means that it's good because you care enough to actually like pay the however much fee it is, which would then put money into the state account.
I'm fine with that.
I've had other conversations with people as well, and they've been irked by it, which means that they also care to the point that they would also pay.
You all right, Malton?
My
I'm
whole
good.
thing is I want to start.
Oh, there's a hearing going on downstairs.
I want to start a family tree, so we have this shit recorded for the DOJ and the doctors too, in case of like someone's death, so they can inform family members and shit if the patient doesn't have like an emergency contact list.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Hmm.
If we're gonna be self-sufficient for pay, we might need to
Alex looks so cute. Look at this.
Doubles a good start before it goes more than 55.
I don't know.
You all just gotta be more.
The mask mandate thing is
proactive
just
about
because I
going
dislike
1
people
mile
running
per
around
hour
masked
over the
24/7
speed
too.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all.
No, I get the. I'm
I'm
fine
just
with
scared
putting.
of justifying something without, you know, having a reason. Yeah.
It's kind of
I'm
the same.
100% on your side on it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same as
absolutely
the
on you.
brandishing
No,
one.
yeah,
I hate
no,
people
it's
running
not.
around with weapons out. I don't see why. Like, it's not part of your identity. You don't have to have a knife out. Maybe for Reed, but Reed is a special case.
Adjustment period,
I
but, you know, it's like
It's
everybody that
Yeah.
can't drive for shit has been
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've had multiple people come up to me about the knife thing. From both sides. I've had PD complain about they feel like they can't stop people from just running around with knives out.
Mm.
And then I've had people complain that they're like hanging out on their front lawn of their house and they have a knife out for not violent, rude, or threatening reasons. And then cops come and like try to arrest them for brandishing. So,
That is a bit weird. But again, like, why
yeah.
are you playing?
Why do you have a knife out?
Yeah, exactly. Like, are you playing that one game with like your hand and the knife, or like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I think
Can I smoke in here?
I smoke in the elevator. If you want to do that,
Can I smoke in here?
I don't care.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I think
I'm having a really rough time. I only woke up like 2 hours ago.
Oh fuck.
yeah, I don't know. It's the proverbial question, right? Do I make things really simple so that they're very clear and PD can just arrest people or not, and people know when they're going to be arrested or not? Or do I
Keeping it
make
balanced.
things more vague, which means more discussions in court, more arguments?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It's always the same question, and I genuinely don't know which way to lean.
I think I think it depends. If it's a big issue, then there should be a lot of leeway. If it's a small issue, it's better to fight it in court. Like, it's not that it hurts anyone; it's just an annoyance that people think that you running around with a weapon out is a good idea.
I agree. I think actually what you said makes sense. I think really harsh charges should probably be pretty clear.